So recently, something happened that nobody could have expected. For Gundam Wing's 30th anniversary celebration at San Diego Comic-Con, a short made to commemorate this event was shown to hundreds of people. And well, it looked incredible. It was so cool seeing all of the Gundams in action one more time, a new version of Rhythm of Motion from 2 Mix, but the best thing was that it took damn near 3 decades for Hiro to perform a parachute landing correctly, which is honestly the best type of character development that he could ever get. But in response to the short, naturally, viewers from all over the world came together, from fans of Wing, the franchise itself, or just casual observers who know what Gundam is, collectively agreed that not only did this short look incredible from an animation standpoint, but also asked, why? Why does it look so incredibly good? And that's the question I'm going to try and answer in this very video. So today, I'm going to talk about the people behind this short and why it looks so cool and impressive as it is. So if you're new here, my name is Cheems, and if you want to see more Gundam videos from me, liking and subscribing would mean a ton. Alright, so to get things started, I was really curious who actually worked on this short. And thanks to the staff being credited at the end of the short, I was unsurprised at some of the staff members showing up, but I was really shocked to see who was at the helm of this short. The director and storyboard artist of this short is Toru Iwasawa. And if that name sounds familiar, then you probably know who he is. He's worked as an animator on a lot of Fate stuff, from Fate Grand Order, Fate Apocrypha, and even Heaven's Feel, which is the only one I've seen out of these 3. He's popped up a little bit on My Hero Academia, Chainsaw Man, and JoJo's Bizarre Adventure Part 5, and even as one of the 7 animators who took part in that little 7-page Muda scene, which is pretty cool. As of recently, he appeared in Dragon Ball Daima and animated one of my favorite scenes in the series. But one of the things that really made me realize that he was very well suited to the role of director and storyboard artist for this short was his work on Frieren Beyond Journey's End, as not just an animator, but as a storyboard artist, episode director, and action animation director for several episodes. I'll just have a few clips play as I'm talking right now to really get across how fucking incredible his work is. Like, goddamn, the man really is that good at what he does. Besides Iwasawa, we have a lot of familiar names returning to not only the Gundam franchise, but even Gundam Wing. While this isn't completely confirmed and is still presumed, mechanical designer Junya Ishigaki was credited, but still presumed, for the 3 stills of the Wing Gundam at the very beginning of this short. While he is credited on the staff list as a key animator, we have no direct confirmation of whether this was from him or not. So after I finished recording, I did find out that he did publicly confirm that this was his work, on top of the other 2 modern looking stills that show up at the end. He was credited for the cockpit's design that we see at the beginning as well. The reason why Ishigaki's name popping up in this surprised me was because he also worked on Gundam Wing back in the 90s and was also credited as a key animator in Endless Waltz. But as of right now, I have no idea what he worked on specifically. That's homework for someone who really knows their stuff, unlike me. The iconic mechanical designer Hajime Katoki is back on yet another Gundam thing. If you don't know who he is, he's the mechanical designer for a ton of Gundam series and films like Hathaway, Unicorn, and Narrative being the most recent of examples. He's back, and he's a mechanical designer for this short. There's a ton of animators on this short, some of which have their work identified and still some unknown, but for now I'm going to talk about a few that were mostly presumed and confirmed. We're starting off with Hiroshi Arizawa, an incredible mecha animator who worked on series like Build Fighters, Gundam 00, and Build Divers, made an appearance here and was confirmed to have animated this cut of the Sandrock, which is a reference to the original cut from the second OP. Another confirmed animator is Shinya Kusumeki. Like Arizawa, he's another animator who's worked on a lot of the more modern Gundam anime like the Build series and 00. But he also took part in some of the more recent UC Engage crossover scenes that sparked conversation again. Hell, he's even animated the Wing Gundam before, so I guess this is a full circle moment for the guy. For this short, he drew the really cool shots of the Epion that were really short, but really damn cool looking. There's also Shinya Tateyama, who's worked on a decent amount of stuff for series like Build Fighters Try, Iron-Blooded Orphans, and a crap ton of stuff for The Witch from Mercury. While his work is still presumed here and could be subject to change, from what people have been determining to be his work is a first few seconds at the beginning that calls back to the second opening, with Hero launching the Gundam and the endless Waltz taking off for the very first time. But his work only involved the Gundam and Hero was animated by someone else. I really hope this short opens up more opportunities for talented creatives like Iwasawa, as well as the other impressive staff and animators who worked on this, to maybe make more creative and amazing looking Gundam stuff in the future as well. And while I don't have the time to properly list and credit all the animators who worked on each cut of animation for this short, they all deserve a ton of praise. I was really happy to see that they were credited at the end of the video, and hopefully their work gets properly identified and credited on sites like Sakugaburu. But for the remainder of this video, I want to talk about the most important piece that made the visual style stand out to so many people. And that has to do with photography and compositing. And the man responsible for overseeing this process is Kentaro Waki. While some of you might not know his name, Kentaro Waki has been the director of photography for several Gundam works outside of this short. He's worked on series and films including, but not limited to, Gundam Age, Build Fighters, Reconquista and G, Thunderbolt, Narrative, Hathaway, and UC Engaged. And you know that opening from Gundam The Origin that looked distinctly old school and really modern at points? Well, he led the composite and photography on that. If you've taken a glance at his Twitter, he shares so much, including the before and after shots and process cuts of animation for the UC Engaged cutscenes that made the rounds each time they dropped. And yeah, if you're like me, you would naturally think that some sort of black magic sorcery has been done, but it's scary with how much his stuff looks like it was animated on cell and captured on film. It's even more hard to believe that these cuts of animation were processed on Adobe After Effects to get these results. But it's true. Compositing is honestly one of the things I pay the most attention to nowadays when I'm watching new shows. And it's a lot more important than people give it credit for, because it can either make or break your show. The main goal of the composition for this short is to make everything look as if it was animated and hand painted onto cells and later captured onto film on whatever size film stock they use. The end result never looks as clean as cells appear in real life, which is the main charm of this retro aesthetic as people give it credit for. While there are some great examples you can find on Twitter, for the sake of authenticity, a good friend of mine who's been a huge help in making thumbnails for the channel helped out again for this video and made a quick example for me to show you on paper how this process is achieved in the simplest, most straightforward way possible. It starts off like this, and all the way up to the coloring and shading, it feels pretty much digital and lifeless. But it's the normal process, and this is how this drawing is delivered to the compositing team. With some black magic and supernatural skills, somehow the end result looks like this. In our case, we tried to make it look like a cell illustration coming straight out of a film reel, which is a case for most of the footage Waki works with in stuff like UC Engage in this very same short. A subtle green tint was added, some blurry, more raw lines to emulate the feel of an actual G-pin were placed, some grain, and even the subtle shadows that sometimes you can spot in remasters of old shows where the character cell is above the background art was placed as well. This is what someone with minimum knowledge of the process can do, so imagine how this is achieved on an even more professional level. Well, the results are clear. It's just crazy how the more I see of Waki's compositing work, the more I get blown away by it. You can really tell with each of his contributions that there's not only a tremendous understanding of shows or films from the 80s and 90s, with all of its individual quirks such as the type of film grain, colors, and line weight that makes stuff from that era stand out, but you can also feel that there's a fondness for it so clearly within each piece. I'm so happy pieces like this exist to help remind people of the shows that they grew up with. Seeing those UC Engage clips set in First Gundam, Zeta Gundam, and Char's Counterattack really reinforced how strong each series were in terms of its own visual identity, and how much these works clearly affected the people who made cutscenes like these, or this Gundam Wing short. And despite me not being the biggest Gundam Wing fan, I can't deny that watching this short made me want to rewatch some Gundam Wing for fun. If looking at this Wing short made it perfectly clear, it is very possible to have a show that looks exactly like it came out of the 90s in the year 2025. You can imagine having Gundam Wing in its entirety with the looks of the Endless Waltz OVA. It's a crazy thought for sure, but do we really need that? Do older Gundam shows actually need to be remade just for them to be more appealing to the current mainstream of anime viewers? That's a question I've been asking myself for a good month now. And honestly, I think that's one that's absolutely worth discussing. But until then, thanks again for watching. Please check out the amazing artists who helped out with today's video on Pixiv, and I'll see you guys when I see you. Take care.